Welcome back to the Exit Planning series. Today's episode is all about developing synergy with your buyer. Simply put, it's just good business. My name is Sean Siebold. I'm president and founder of Siebold Capital Management. Welcome to our next video. Let's get to it. Today, we're going to talk about 1+1 optimizing synergy. What does that mean? So in chapter 5, here's what we're going to talk about. First, isn't this supposed to be a video I leave my business? Why are we talking about synergy for the buyer? So we talked about it a little bit in chapter 3. Buyer will pay more for synergy. So this is super important. If you're a seller and you can add value to the buyer, they will pay more. So really important. Why should I care for someone else's synergy? What's it to me? Just a little bit of goodwill. So knowing what that buyer wants is going to be additive. So one buyer, one seller. If we get synergy, we add value equals 3. So how do we start this? We've got to know what they're looking for. So as the seller, you want to look and say, who's the best buyer for me and who will create more value by acquiring my company? Well, it depends. Each company is going to be different. Depends on what they're looking for. So we're looking for top line. We're looking for bottom line growth. That depends. So this could be a revenue-based purchase. All they're doing is looking to create revenue. So somebody buying the company only says, I'm going to buy it. It's an operating company. I'm going to pay it on it. That's it. Or another company is looking to create more market share, take over market share. As a result of them taking market share, they could lower their costs, they can increase their revenue, they can increase their profit margin. That means they're going to pay more. More channels to sell. So this one's pretty frequent from a strategic perspective. Let's go look at a buyer or someone to buy because they want to get into a customer that they don't have any contacts with, but your company does. So again, if you know that, that means you're going to be more valuable to them. That can expand the product line. Again, if you're buying a customer or buying a company that needs to get into someone else, but you sell a completely different product line, this is good stuff. So that's synergistic. So here's a couple examples. Microsoft buying Nokia. Nokia is not in the operational software business, but they got into the communications world. That was helpful. Elon Musk buying Twitter. So add a lot of value there. Quaker Oats buying Snapple. So there are some things that can be additive. Okay, cost-based purchase strengthens the core product. So what else can you add in terms of when you're purchasing something to add strength to the product of your buyer? Higher efficiencies. So if we're looking for, small mid-market companies buying, you get some higher efficiencies. Instead of having one plant or two plants, you can have one plant. Eliminate some of the local competition, perhaps. That can also be value added. Here's a couple examples in this space. Disney buying Pixar, very strategic there. Daimler-Benz buying Chrysler, again, perhaps lowering some costs and creating some efficiencies. Gaining market share. Pfizer buying Wyeth. All of those are examples of a 1+1 equals 3 growth. So that's good things. Okay, creating credibility in costs. Okay, how do we do that? Cost synergizes downsides assets from the company. So again, you're taking fixed costs, you're lowering the overall fixed costs, and creating better revenues going forward. Quick example on that: employees. 2 CFOs are unnecessary. Perhaps you get to downsize one. That can be a significant cost for small, mid-sized companies. Locations. Instead of having 5, you can bring them down. If you purchase all the other ones and consolidate into one plant, that also can save. Logistics, more negotiations leverage. So instead of being a small one plant operation, you could be a 3, and therefore you're going to get better logistics and transportation costs. Websites to become one. Professional services, data management, financial, legal, all those things. Lots of operational expenditures out the window. 1+1 equals 3. So super important stuff to look at from a valuation perspective. Super important to understand when a buyer is looking at this so that you can assess that value and negotiate accordingly. Okay, really rich revenue. Revenue synergy synergizes idealized massive revenue after purchase. Okay, we're going to create more brand recognition. more product bundling opportunities. You're taking disparate products, but you're selling to the same buyer. You get additional revenue opportunities, geographic expansion. If you're an East Coast company and you need to expand out to the Midwest, that would be a great job to do that. New end markets for you. Again, trying to get into customers that you can't get into without an M&A transaction, and different unique customer types. So all of these add value to that purchase for the buyer. So again, as the strategic seller, you need to know these in the negotiation process. So doesn't always work. So there can be some dyssynergy. There's a word that we came up with there. So what does dyssynergy do? So what if you're looking for synergies, you're looking for things that happen, but in fact, they don't come to fruition. So what could that be? So if it takes 1 to 3 years and you can't consolidate, you can't consolidate operations. You have some legal issues that force you to hold on to some things. Revenue purchases are significantly more hazardous, especially when you're looking at that. So when you're looking at those type of purchases and you're only looking for revenues instead of synergies from a strategic perspective, if you have any kind of hits to the economy, that can hurt. So that could be a 1 + 1 = 1.5. The buyers usually saddle with many non-recurring expenses before the synergy realizes. So synergy is awesome when you can find it, and when you're selling, you want to find it and you want to make sure it's part of that negotiating price. Doesn't always happen, so keep that in mind and force the issue with regards to where that synergy is going to come from. So, bottom line, if you can help that buyer synergize faster, more efficiently, then they are going to pay more. It will be accretive to you. So you need to know that in the negotiation steps as you go through this process. So, um, and they think it'll be really helpful, which of course will be great. So you want that deal to eventually close. So, thanks for listening to our video today. We're stay tuned for our chapter 6 of our video series. You're free, well, almost free. Determine that exit objectives. So this is really critical in terms of how you're thinking about how to get out, all those kind of things that are going to go through your mind in the exit process. So stay tuned for chapter 6. We'll look forward to seeing you there.